just into the KLAK newsroom. The happy hamster has escaped from the Rahway penitentiary. Be on the lookout for a 6-foot-tall hamster dressed in Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band outfit. We'll have the full story for you tonight at 10.
And welcome to a late-breaking edition of the Oddity Archive. So late-breaking that some of our headlines date as far back as the 1930s. Better late than never, I guess. Anyway, as strongly implied, today's episode is all about breaking news. And when possible, that moment when regular programming is broken into. Although we're going to also take a look at some of those moments where the real news happens right in the middle of an ongoing bulletin. So with that, let's cover, with as light a touch as possible, because a lot of this is pretty heavy stuff, we interrupt this program.
Joining us now from New York, NBC News senior international correspondent Keir Simmons.
We've got news on this, a grisly end to the long search for a missing woman.
As well, we have to remember that the Queen is not just serving as the head of state. And
one of my many gripes about the media today is that everything is breaking news. And this is coming from someone that is younger than CNN, FNN, and headline news. For example, just for a lark, the day I started kicking around the idea for this episode, I grabbed my phone, opened the camera app, turned on the TV, hit the 3 major cable news outlets, and took a picture of the first, not a commercial, thing I saw. 2 channels were in full-on breaking news mode, and the other had the word crisis splashed on screen. The Iran stuff was a couple of days old by this point. Not exactly hot off the presses. Now, call me naive.
You're naive!
But this feels more like a ratings grab than anything else. As such, it felt simultaneously comforting and maddening that, even in my lifetime, the bar for breaking news has been much higher, and that bar was that much higher before my time. In other words, it was comforting that it hasn't always been this way, maddening because it may very well never level off again.
You revolutionized the entire music.
Given my status as a quasi-historian, I did my best to dig as deep and as far back as I could to try and find that earliest surviving breaking news bulletin thing. Well, I'm pleased to report that I was able to get us all the way back into the golden age of radio, but I'm less pleased to report that there are no deep cuts here. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. 1, recording gear was a lot less accessible back then, and 2, the yardstick for breaking news was a lot higher. Now, as for the oldest one, I'm cheating a bit here because it didn't air live. But it's a famous one. It's the Hindenburg disaster, the German airship that caught fire and went up very, very quickly on May 6, 1937. But we've all heard that broadcast, the Oh the Humanity one. But the thing was, it was supposed to be a field recording to be taken back to the station to be played at some later date. So in this case, we had some guys from WLS out of Chicago in New Jersey covering it, recording it with the intent of taking it back home. Well, of course, you know, the thing went up, and then it became a mad rush to get back, but it was still the next day before it aired. Now, as for the other stuff, as you would expect, it's World War II stuff. And this was during the period of the news flash, and where that was really an official term, because it's one of those things that's been appropriated and watered down a lot since then. But back then, if you got a news flash, it was official, and it was serious business.
It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. It bursts into flames. Get it started. It's flashing, and it's flashing. It's flashing terrible. Oh, my. Get out of the way, please. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's flashing 400 or 500 feet into the sky, and it's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. It's smoke and it's flames now. All the humanity and all the fans are just screaming around it. I told you. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen.
This is London. You will now hear a statement by the Prime Minister.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
Dodgers are ready to kick off now. They've just scored. Ace Parker did it. John Sutherland's boys lead the Giants 7-0. Here's the whistle. Merle Condon comes up. He boots it. It's a long one down to around the 3-yard line. Ward Cup takes it. He's cutting up to his left and over the 10. Nice block there by Lehman. Cup still going. He's up to the 25. And now he's hit and hit hard about the 27-yard line. Bruiser Kennard made the tackle. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you this important bulletin from the United Press. Flash, Washington. The White House announces Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Stay tuned to WOR for further developments, which will be broadcast immediately as received.
From the NBC newsroom in New York, President Roosevelt said in a statement today that the Japanese have attacked the Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, from the air.
Your point is that conscription for overseas service, or the sending even on a voluntary...
We interrupt this program to take you to the NBC newsroom. Right. From the NBC newsroom in New York, the White House also reported today an simultaneous air attack on Army and Navy bases in Manila. This report followed the President's declaration that all Army and Navy bases on the island of Oahu in Hawaii are now under air attack.
So that the squeeze will be distributed as equitably as possible. Right now, while you were talking, I've just learned that the Japanese are now bombing Burma. This is an act that may lead the United States to war against Japan. It may lead Canada to more active military effort against Japan. I merely mention this to show how fast events are moving.
One moment, please.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, NBC. Hello, NBC. This is KTU in Honolulu, Hawaii. I am speaking from the roof of the Advertiser Publishing Company building. We have witnessed this morning a distant view, a great battle off Pearl Harbor, and a severe bombing of Pearl Harbor by enemy planes, undoubtedly Japanese. It is no joke, it is the real war.
Just a minute, may I interrupt this just a second, please? This is the telephone company, the chief operator.
Yes?
We try to get through on an emergency call. Could you tell me...
Well, we're talking to New York now.
One moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we're standing by for further word from Honolulu, and we expect to rejoin them in just a moment.
This is Robert St. John in the NBC newsroom in New York. Ladies and gentlemen, we may be approaching a fateful hour. All night long, bulletins have been pouring in from Berlin claiming that D-Day is here, claiming that the invasion of Western Europe has begun. And now we have just been informed that we can expect in a very few seconds, a very important broadcast from the British capital. And so now we take you to London.
The text of communique number 1 will be released to the press and radio of the United Nations in 10 seconds. Repeat, 10 seconds from now. Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France.
Honestly, I think it's sad that one of my all-time most requested topics that I have no intention of ever covering is deaths that happened live on the air. Or I guess dead on the air might be more accurate. Gallows humor aside, even by the low standards of Oddity Archive, I think it crosses the line. But having said that, given today's topic, it's somewhat inevitable. Now, as you probably noticed with the Hindenburg bit, I did my best to keep it from getting too lurid. But now we're getting into the television era, and onto the stuff that was broadcast live, especially 9/11, which, of course, millions of us saw happen, myself included. And I did go back and watch it again for this episode, and it's no better now. And don't get me wrong, I am one of those people that considers it best to get their history as firsthand as possible. But given the general tone of this show, I don't think it's appropriate here. So we're still going to cover the biggies, but I'm going to do my best to keep it from getting too lurid. Besides, it's still going to be plenty depressing.
Now for the next 30 minutes. As the world trotted linked to a mountain adventure with a pretty girl on Route 66 tonight on the CBS television network. And now...
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. Further details on an assassination attempt against President Kennedy in Dallas, Texas. President Kennedy was shot as he drove from Dallas Airport to downtown Dallas. Governor Connally of Texas in the car with him was also shot. It is reported that 3 bullets rang out. A Secret Service man was heard to shout from the car, "He's dead." Whether he referred to President Kennedy or not is
new
not
taste
yet known.
in dog food? Discover new Friskies Magic Sauce Cubes.
Here's a bulletin from CBS News. President Kennedy has been the victim of an assassin's bullets in Dallas, Texas. It is not known as yet whether the president survived the attack against him. The incident was this. The President, Mrs. Kennedy, and Governor Connally of Texas driving in the President's famed bubble-top car from Dallas Airport to downtown Dallas, where the President was scheduled to make a speech.
Ah, there's a nice-looking young man right there.
Just me and you, Jim.
Oh, not me, you, Bud.
Me?
Go on, Bud. It sounds exciting.
We interrupt this program to bring you further details on the shooting of President Kennedy.
After the shots were fired and the president was seen to slump over and Governor Connolly was hit, the motorcade sped on toward the hospital. It took them perhaps 5 minutes to reach the ambulance entrance of the hospitals. Reporters there say the president was lying flat on his face in the car. A man and woman were seen scrambling on the upper level of a walkway overlooking the underpass from which they believe the shots were fired.
I'm Dan O'Herlihy. Doc faces losing Jimmy when he can't prove he's his son to an unscrupulous schoolmaster on the travels of Jamie McFeeters.
7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central on ABC.
President Kennedy has been shot in Dallas, Texas. He was shot while he was touring town with Governor Connolly in the famous bubble car. The bubble was down. Both Mrs. Kennedy and Mrs. Connolly were in the car with them. 3 shots rang out, and the president slumped forward, and Governor Connolly remained seated upright. So far, the latest word is that they are still alive.
With the zipper than it is with the snaps. Then there's zippers up the sides so that the jacket will fit tightly around the hips, keeping that straight, sleek look that it should have. And very often you'll find a zipper hidden in the arm.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You'll excuse the fact that I'm out of breath, but about 10 or 15 minutes ago, a tragic thing, from all indications at this point, has happened in the city of Dallas. Let me quote to you this. And you'll excuse me if I am out of breath. A bulletin, this is from the United Press, from Dallas. President Kennedy and Governor John Connolly have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas. They were riding in an open automobile when the shots were fired. The president, his limp body carried in the arms of his wife, Jacqueline, has rushed to Parkland Hospital. And if you'll excuse me if I give some directions and we talk about what we're going to do here for the next few minutes, but Bobby, let's tape this, if you please, particularly the interview with the eyewitness people. It is being taped good.
Government sources now confirm. We have this from Washington. Government sources now confirm that President Kennedy is dead. So that apparently is the final word.
Pay-per-view. To order, call 1-800-333-DISH.
Fox News, we have a very tragic alert for you right now. An incredible plane crash into the World Trade Center here at the lower tip of Manhattan.
It's believed a 737 has crashed into. There's speculation at this point, but at least 3 floors taken out.
Owen, we have a satellite picture right now. That is it.
A live picture. As you can see, Edie, this is different. This is a different perspective than we saw earlier. The plane obviously went in on one side and came out the other. There's debris all over the ground down below.
I am reminded of a couple of things that happened recently, Dr. Gross. Not long ago, just within the last couple of weeks, in fact, there was a pilot.
We must say now that we are a nation under siege. Right now, we are a nation under siege. There is a terrorist attack, as you can see, at the heart of the financial capital of the world, and now one at the heart of the military command center of the United States of America, the Pentagon. Apparently, there has been an explosion. We have no further details. We don't know the extent of that, but we do have word that there's been an explosion at the Pentagon as well.
And there are some smoke clouds that we can see in that is the Washington, D.C. area.
The man was a bit compulsive, let's face it, but on the other hand, he was absolutely the most amazing man that America has ever created, ever.
Okay, I have got to interrupt you right now.
Sorry.
Richard Hack, thank you very much. We appreciate the book is called Hughes. We want to go live right now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center where I understand, do we have it? No, we do not. We have a breaking story, though. We're going to come back with that in just a moment. First, this is Today on NBC.
As Matt just mentioned, we have a breaking news story to tell you about. Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City. It happened just a few moments ago, apparently. We have very little information available at this point in time, but on the phone, we do have Jennifer Oberstein, who apparently witnessed this event. Elliot, have you, of course, because of the incident that occurred in the early 1990s, have you seen any evidence, Elliot, of people being taken out of the building? You say that emergency vehicles are there, understandably so, but of course the
Despite a temporary restraining order, city teachers go out on strike on the first day of the new school year. They stay out until September 29th. That's today in New York City history.
This is a live picture from our camera on the Empire State Building looking toward the World Trade Center. A 3-alarm fire and a report of an explosion somewhere in the World Trade Center. You can see the plume of smoke from the top of one of the World Trade Center towers. And this has just come into us, word of this incident at the World Trade Center. The fire department with a story that says there is no report of any casualties without jumping to too many conclusions, looking at the extent of this damage and knowing how well populated.
Up next is a batch of what I consider to be second-tier downers. Much lower body counts, if any at all, but still important. Now, as you may have noticed in that last batch, the end goal for a good chunk of these reporters was to be not necessarily the first at breaking the story, but being the most accurate. Well, this time we get to see what happens when that gets botched. Live on the air. I kind of wish there was a little more of this attitude today.
Cincinnati has just kicked a second field goal, 7-6 at the half Steelers. As some of you may have heard, there's been an incident in Guyana in which an American congressman and several newsmen have been killed. We now have a special report from CBS News correspondent Ed Bradley.
This is a CBS News special report. The dead are Congressman Leo Ryan, Democrat from California, NBC reporter Don Harris, NBC cameraman Robert Brown, San Francisco Examiner photographer Gregory Robinson, and a woman who has not been identified pending an aircraft to return with some unhappy settlers when they were ambushed, perhaps by someone among the settlers. The founder of the sect is Jim Jones, a former housing authority official. Plane has taken the seriously wounded to a hospital at Ramey Air Force Base in Puerto Rico. The less seriously wounded are due at Andrews Air Force Base outside Washington later tonight. Ed Bradley, CBS News, New York.
Videotape of an incident that took place less than 15 minutes ago at the Washington Hilton Hotel when shots were fired at President Reagan. Here you see the president coming out now. You just have to watch. I don't know whether we can hear this or not. Affairs. Lynn Nofziger has told reporters at the hospital that the president was not wounded. He was wounded. My God. He was, the president was hit. He is in stable condition. All this information, the president was hit. He was hit in the left chest, according to this, but he is in stable condition. And the typed information I have is that he is okay. Speak up. One shot, stable condition. The president was hit. Bingo!
We're interrupting programs to tell you that Diana, Princess of Wales, is gravely ill in intensive care in Paris's Salpêtrière Hospital after being seriously injured in a car crash which killed her friend, the Harrods Air Dodi fired. So there is the car being towed away. We are now being told that Diana, Princess of Wales, who was reported to be injured in that accident you've just seen pictures of, has actually died in Paris's Salpêtrière Hospital. A French minister has confirmed the death of the Princess of Wales.
We interrupt our regular program schedule to bring you the following special report from ABC News in Washington. Here is Frank Reynolds.
There has been a dreadful airplane crash in Washington. An Air Florida 737 just a short while ago after taking off from National Airport bound for Tampa struck a bridge, the 14th Street Bridge in Washington. That is basically all we know at this point. It is undoubtedly, or it probably is weather-related, because Washington is experiencing a very, very bad snowstorm here today, part of the tremendous storm that has afflicted so much of the country.
Well, it wouldn't be Oddity Archive without some weathery kind of stuff. I mean, we've only had 2 episodes of ostensibly weather-based civil defense broadcasting stuff, and another one of just weather warnings. So, keeping in spirit with at least part of the weather warnings episode, let's take a look at some weather-related break-ins. Now, these are all either local or network originals, so no civil defense broadcasting was involved here per se. But having said that, at least one of these occurrences probably did trigger some sort of civil defense broadcast, but as of my making this, no footage has surfaced.
Allowing Jose Canseco to score, and he fails to get Dave Parker at second base, so the Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Well, I don't know if we're on the air. We are in commercial. Yes, we hear you. I guess I don't hear a thing. I guess Dave Parker. Well, I don't know if we're on the air or not, and I'm not sure I care at this particular moment, but we are. Well, folks, that's the greatest open in the history of television, bar none. Yes, it certainly did.
Okay, we're here in the Channel 4 newsroom, as you folks, there's no surprise for any folks this morning. We've been hit with a major earthquake. Right now we're trying to basically gather some more information, trying to figure out where this has been centered. I'm not sure if we can take a look around that right now, but half the newsroom behind me has been disheveled, a lot of television monitors knocked off the shelves.
5:50.
The National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 11:05 this morning for the following parish in northwest Louisiana. Bienville at 10:05, Shreveport radar indicated a very heavy thunderstorm northeast of Coshada, Louisiana, which has produced marble-sized hail. It's increasing and moving to the east-northeast at 50 miles per hour. The entire Channel 10 viewing area is under a tornado watch at this time, includes most of Arkansas and northwest Louisiana. Again, the National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 11:05 for Bienville Parish in northwest Louisiana. Stay tuned to Channel 10 for further weather information.
Jefferson, Bullitt, Oldham, Henry, Shelby, and Spencer counties in Kentucky. A pair of tornadoes were indicated by radar at 7:10 p.m. at 15 miles south and 10 miles southeast of Standiford Airport in Louisville. These tornadoes are moving to the east-northeast at 50 miles an hour. The police department has just called WHS-TV, speaking for the water company. They say that the water supply in Louisville has fallen to a dangerously low level. This is because of the tornado that went through Louisville late this afternoon, crippling the water company operation in the Crescent Hill area. So you're asked, please do not use water. Please do not use water now until the water supply can build itself up again, because right now it has fallen to a dangerously low level. One was sighted near McNeely Lake just about 5 or 6 minutes ago. We'll see you at 9 o'clock. Please take care.
WHS-TV, Louisville.
Gift America presents America's fastest gift service.
I see that you've got 3 choices. You can give it all up, you can make us shoot you, or we can let them have at you.
Mount St. Helens has erupted again. Initial reports say that a large mushroom-shaped cloud has risen almost 10 miles into the sky. Pilots flying over the volcano said the eruption looked like an atomic bomb. Tonight's eruption is the largest since May 25th, when the volcanic ash blanketed much of southwestern Washington.
The first class in America was created by a black man.
Here is a special weather report from News Center 5.
Good evening. The National Weather Service has just issued a tornado warning for a portion of our viewing area. Here is Channel 5's weathercaster, Jim Tillman, with more information. Jim?
Ron, the National Weather Service issued a tornado warning effective until 9:30 this evening for southern Will, Grundy, and Kankakee counties in Illinois. 3 funnel clouds were sighted just a bit ago at 8:22 this evening in the vicinity of Morris, Illinois. They were moving toward the southeast.
This next batch is just going to be a short one. This is just as much meant to show off the graphics that were being used in the 70s and 80s as anything else. But having said that, this next set is extra amusing, in retrospect at least, in that I think most of these headlines could have easily waited until the next commercial break. As such, I call this my whoop-de-freaking-do montage.
CTA bus drivers and motormen are going out on strike at 3 o'clock this morning. Late tonight, the union representing its 11,000 employees announced the strike, leaving 200,000 riders to fend for themselves. We'll have details on the CTA strike and a possible firefighter strike later on at 10 o'clock this evening.
This has been a special news bulletin from Channel 7 News. Now back to An American Christmas Carol.
Oh. No.
Governor Thompson has adjourned the meeting with Chicago school board members and representatives of state, city, union, and banking officials as the summit meeting failed to produce a bailout plan as teachers and other board members of education or employees of the Board of Education were not paid for the second Friday in a row. Talks resume this morning at 9 a.m. Give to the American Cancer Society.
Bill Spins trying to get more than 100. And he gets 40, 90. You do it.
Good morning. This is Dan Rather in New York. Against a Middle East and a Grenada backdrop, President Reagan is about to appear before reporters at the White House. On the Middle East, the president apparently will announce that former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld will be named as his new special Mideast envoy.
I thought I'd try and close out today's episode on the lightest note possible. So I've got a batch of break-ins for you here of admittedly varying degrees of seriousness, and some actually are kind of serious, but they all come with a certain degree of dumb luck. So let's close things out today with a look at some rather serendipitous break-ins.
You could choose the 6x9 for $49.95 or the 9x12 at $89.95. So you see, good taste, it's not expensive at Carpeterian.
Save on all your lighting needs at Halifax. There's a showroom near you in Beverly.
Here is a bulletin from Channel 5 News. Singer Elvis Presley has died in a Memphis, Tennessee hospital. The 45-year-old entertainer apparently died of a respiratory ailment. No other details were given. Repeating, singer Elvis Presley has died at the age of 45. A complete report tonight on Newswatch at 10.
Gold egg? Did you say gold egg?
I said I am a...
We interrupt this program to bring you the following special report from NBC News. Here is David Brinkley.
Good evening. Some early results from the Kansas primary. We have two projections. In the Democratic Party primary, we project President Carter the winner on the basis of early returns from selected precincts. In the Republican primary, we project Ronald Reagan the winner. Those are the early returns from the Kansas primary. We'll have full details on this and the Wisconsin primary in a special program tonight following your local news.
This special NBC News report has been brought to you by the Gulf Oil Corporation, producers of more and better energy from oil.
We'll return to NBC Rose Parade coverage shortly. We switch now to NBC News' Tom Brokaw. Tom?
Good afternoon and Happy New Year, everyone. And this new year begins with an important demonstration of the renewed communications between the Soviet Union and the United States. President Reagan and Soviet leader Gorbachev are exchanging New Year's messages that will be broadcast directly to the Soviet and American people.
Here's a special bulletin from the Channel 7 Eyewitness Newsroom. I'm Jim Gibbons. At least 155 persons are reported injured in a rush hour collision of two CTA rapid transit trains on the Jefferson Park line at Addison Street this morning. None of the 7 hospitals receiving the victims have thus far reported a fatality, but it is known that some of the injured are undergoing surgery and are listed in serious condition.
So try Tickle. You'll like the way it feels, and you'll love the way it works.
Here is a special report from NBC News. Former Vice President Nelson Rockefeller is dead. Mr. Rockefeller had been rushed to Lenox Hill Hospital just before midnight with what appeared to be a heart attack. Repeating, former Vice President and New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller is dead at 70. This has been a special report from NBC News.
Well, that's it for today's archive. I'm sure you're expecting some cute little breaking news gag out of me here. And you would be right. You would be right. You would be right. Where was this on the technical difficulties episode?
Stand by, please, for a special news bulletin from Channel 7 News.
Okay, here's the news. Sorry.